Mookie Betts gets a day off to get his head straight against the White Sox? That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. My name is Travis Rogers, spelled just like that, Rogers like Dodgers. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Travis Rogers. Hope you check those out. And if you are an everydayer here at Locked On Dodgers, welcome. Free and available, of course, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Not only do I host this Locked On Dodgers pod, I also host the Locked On Rams pod with my pal Doug McCain. You can check us out over there. Got my daily radio show here in LA on 710 ESPN with my good pal DeMarco Farr. You can check that out 9 to noon every day, 710 ESPN, and we'll talk a lot of Dodgers over there too. But this is all Dodgers. And let's get right into what we saw last night against the Chicago White Sox. But first, let me remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, right? FanDuel. New customers get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, let's jump right into what we saw last night. Bit of a surprise. Mookie Betts gets a day off. What Dave Roberts described as a mental day against a terrible team, against a Chicago White Sox team that's got the second worst record in Major League Baseball, behind only the Colorado Rockies, which we all got to see just a few days ago. Interesting, on the heels of an off day on Monday, to give him an additional off day on Tuesday against a team that is not particularly strong, a team that you would imagine might be an opportunity for him to get healthy against, mentally healthy, a team to get some of those numbers back on the north side of where they typically are, because Mookie Betts, offensively at least, is not having a Mookie Betts type of season. And I think there's some information in that they needed to give him a day. And quite frankly, that he was willing to take one, I think speaks to the amount of scuffle that he is in right now. This goes back to what we were talking about with Max Muncy the other day on Locked On Dodgers. This is why you got to be an everydayer, so you know what we're talking about each and every day. But this is just a perfect demonstration of how incredibly mentally taxing and difficult baseball can be, that even for the very best, even for somebody that is going to say, I am done playing baseball, I am done, and they start the clock immediately on their Hall of Fame induction 5 years later, first ballot, that's Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is walking straight into the Hall of Fame. Even a player of his caliber, of his confidence, of his ability, has times where he can't figure it out. And that's what he's dealing with right now, right? You look at what he's doing, and it is not anything that you would ever think about with Mookie Betts. He has a 99 OPS plus. That is just barely below league average. At league average is below Mookie Betts's expectation. He's batting .249 on the season. That is not a Mookie Betts sort of number. And it's not just that the numbers collectively over the first half of the season have not been where you want them. It's particularly ugly over the last handful of days. In his last 20 games, his slash line is 175, 241, and 263. An OPS of 504. Those are terrible numbers for anybody, and those are downright stunning numbers for a player like Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts might be the starting shortstop in the National League at the All-Star position, or in the All-Star game, and great. He deserves it because he's been a great player for a long time, but those are a far cry from usual all-star numbers. He's striking out more than you would typically expect him. Over the season, it's about where you would think, but over this short period of time, right, he struck out 12 times. Mookie Betts doesn't strike out a lot. This isn't Shohei Ohtani, who's a guy that when he's striking out, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and say, okay, he's gonna strike out a lot. He's gonna hit a bunch of home runs. That's not how Mookie goes. And of course, whenever you have Mookie scuffling the way that he is at the plate, you're gonna ask the question, right? And we all know what the question is. Is shortstop taking a toll on him to the degree that it is affecting his offense like this? Because it could be a handful of different things, right? It could be shortstop. It could be that he's spending so much time working on his defensive game. And by the way, he's become a serviceable MLB shortstop. I know what the numbers say. I know that the numbers say that he's an above average MLB shortstop, that, runs saved, he's above the line. Okay, fine. I know what my eyes are telling me, and it doesn't feel great. It doesn't look great. And a couple of Freddie Freeman picks over at first base have probably saved some things along the way. So maybe it's that. Maybe it is that this is the point in his career where he starts to dip. I don't think that's what it is, but it's certainly something that you could ask with a straight face. Maybe it's just the randomness of baseball and that he is going through something right now that just about every single player goes through at one point or another in their career, where they just can't find the baseball and they're not hitting it hard and they're fighting it. They're scuffling. They're trying to find their way through it. Maybe it's a little bit of all of these things. I did find it interesting that Dave Roberts was saying that, it's not like we just put him back in right field and all of a sudden he goes out there and has a 3-hit night. No, probably not. But we could find out, right? Put him in right field and see what happens. Because, and I'll be honest, and I'm kind of kidding, but I'm kind of not. What if they did? What if they did put him out there? And what if he did have a night where he had 2 or 3 hits? What if he had a couple of doubles? What if he popped a home run or 2? What if all of a sudden it's like, oh, there it is. That's Mookie Betts. Do you put him right back at shortstop? I don't know. Again, I don't think that's what it is. And I don't think that they're going to do that. But I do think in part it's for at least that if everything just lines up, he gets hot, he runs into the right pitcher, he just has a good night on the very same night that he's in right field, that opens up a whole nother level of conversation that I really don't think the Dodgers are interested in having at this point. Because look, their best team, their best team, I still believe, includes Mookie Betts in right field, putting Teoscar Hernandez back and left, and letting Kim and Edman hold down the middle of the infield in some order. Well, put guy wherever you think they're better defensively, and I would roll that. But I don't think that's what's coming. But I do think that the fact that Roberts said that at all is a little bit of an indication that at least it's been a point of discussion or something that has crossed somebody's mind. We'll see. If he continues to struggle there, I do think it's look, if we get past the All-Star break, if we get comfortably into July and the early part of August, and Mookie Betts is still knocking around at somewhere around 250 batting average and a slug that is below league average and an OPS that is below league average, you got to find a way to get him going. You're going to need to have him be Mookie Betts in the postseason if you're going to try to go and win a World Series for the second year in a row. It's not going to cost you, night in and night out. They have so many different options, but you want Mookie at his best come the most important part of the season. Now, there's some other things going on and kind of in connection with that. It looked, in Colorado, in Kansas City, that maybe some guys were getting hot, maybe some guys were starting to come out of it. Did not happen for Mookie. Mookie continued to struggle there. It's not really happening for Freddie. We saw Freddie get a hit in Colorado. We saw him hit a home run in Kansas City, and you kind of cross your fingers and thinking, okay, maybe Freddie Freeman is finally starting to dig his way out of a very unusual hole for a player of his caliber. Bad night for him last night against a White Sox team, like I mentioned a few times here, that is not very good. A hat trick for Freddie Freeman. So he continues to fight it. So both he and Mookie still struggling, with the bat. Now, Dodgers have the best record in baseball. They're 54-32. They're starting to pull away in the NL West. So it's certainly not costing them in the grand scheme of things. But again, just, individual performance is something to keep your eye on. The good news is Michael Conforto may have found something in Colorado. We saw him hit a couple of home runs in a couple of nights there. And we're asking the question, is that just Colorado, or did he find a little bit of a groove there? Another hit for him last night, a couple more RBIs, a couple of nice plays in left field. Who knows? How you get hot, how you stay hot, why it happens is one of the great mysteries of this great game. So who knows? Enjoy it, Michael Conforto, while it's happening. Hopefully it stays for a long time. And it's coming for Mookie. It's coming for Freddie. It's just a matter of time. These players are simply too good. And I think last night was a little bit of a hat tip to how much he is feeling it, that he took a night off against a team that you would expect him to go out there and clobber. And hopefully that happens tonight. I expect to see him back in the lineup tonight and maybe driving a few runs in support of Clayton Kershaw getting strikeout number 3,000, which is right there. It is getting closer. Clayton Kershaw, 3 strikeouts tonight against the White Sox will allow him to jump into a very exclusive club. We'll get into that coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House, it is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast, from coast to coast. So, do you need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for that extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. So now it is your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Use the promo code SH5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Moving forward here on Locked On Dodgers, thanks for making us your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And do not forget, you can check us out on YouTube as well. And anything that you're seeing, you're liking, go ahead and put it down in the comments. And I guess if you have something that maybe you would like to see that you're not, you can put that down there as well. And don't worry, we're going to do some mailbag stuff. We're going to talk, we're going to answer some of the questions that you might have in that YouTube chat. So go ahead and stick those in there as well. So tonight at Dodger Stadium, it's finally going to happen, probably, knocking on wood, crossing fingers, toes, and all that good stuff. Clayton Kershaw is going to become the 20th major leaguer in history to join the 3,000 strikeout club. Like we talked about on a previous episode of Locked On Dodgers, that is actually a more exclusive club than there are pitchers who have won 300 games, believe it or not. That caught me by surprise when I saw it. 24 guys have won 300 games. Kershaw will be just the 20th player to get 3,000 strikeouts. So congratulations to him. And tomorrow, if in fact he gets the 3, and it feels likely because A, White Sox, B, Clayton Kershaw, we'll kind of break down Clayton Kershaw's amazing career and where that leaves him in not just Dodger history, but in baseball history. So a lot of Kershaw to get to tomorrow. But here we are, just right here on the precipice of this, and it really is a stunning accomplishment. And just to kind of give you an idea of what he's been able to do, this may be the last one that you see for a very, very long time, if not maybe forever. Because think about the vast majority of Clayton Kershaw's career and the eras and the styles and the temperament of Major League Baseball and when he came up. When he came up, the starting pitcher had a wildly different role than the ones that players that are coming up now are dealing with. When he came up, there was still a little connection back to, for lack of I don't want to call it old school, but traditional baseball, where you let your starter go until the other team's hitters told you he was done, right? The way you knew that guy had enough was he started getting batted around, that he started getting pummeled by the other guys. And it's like, okay, I guess he's done. You go get him. There was a sense of pride in starting pitchers to pitch well into the 7th, 8th, if not complete the entire game. That is long gone. And I'm not saying that the pitchers couldn't do it right now if they were trained to do it, if they were being asked to do it. They're just not. There's no question in my mind that if you ask Paul Skeens or Tarek Skubal or any of these guys to pitch, in the major leagues in the 1980s and 90s and the early part of the 2000s, that they could do it. They absolutely could, but they're just not trained like that. They're trained to pitch differently. They're trained to pitch in a way that is, max effort all the time, max velo, max spin, every pitch, every outing, all the time. And eventually, what happens? Stuff breaks, arms break, knees, all of these things. And then they miss some time and they go down, and we've got that cap at kind of 100 pitches, even if guys are kind of cruising, even if those 100 pitches are relatively low stress. So you're just not going to see guys have enough time on the field to strike out 3,000 guys the way that Clayton Kershaw is doing it, because Kershaw's K rate is right up there, with some of the best you've ever seen, but he was also pitching 7 innings a night. Guys just don't pitch enough. And then, of course, you're going to see more and more guys. Think about Kershaw. Kershaw has not been injured very much over his career. I know in the recent short term, the last several years, yes, he's missed some time, but the early part of the career, that dude was a horse. That guy never missed a turn. So not only is he pitching, 6, 7, 8 innings a start, but he's making his 20, 25, 30 starts a year, every year for more than a decade. You're going to rack up some Ks when you're as good as Clayton Kershaw is. So not only are you going to get to see some Dodger history to see him join that group, this may be an opportunity to see one of the very last guys that can do it. There's guys with stuff that certainly scream 3,000 Ks. Skeens at the top of the list, but I don't know. I mean, who knows how this shakes out? Who knows that if he's going to get an opportunity to do it, just have enough innings, enough games. It's not a stuff thing. It's not a compete thing. It's just it's a math equation. Do you pitch enough innings to get through? Clayton Kershaw is closing in on 20 years and been healthy the vast majority of those years and been striking guys out for a very long time. That's a long time to do it. Right. So congratulations to him for being able to do what we all expect him to do. Now, there is a scenario, I guess, where it doesn't happen tonight. I think it will. It's Dodger Stadium. I think that the Dodgers, Dave Roberts in particular, will give him every opportunity to do it. It is a relatively small number. He's pitching really well. He looks to be kind of in command of what he has been doing. So not only do I expect him to get the 3 strikeouts, I expect him probably to have another one of those Kershaw games that we've seen, that he gives you, 6+ innings and a handful of strikeouts and maybe not too many walks. Maybe there'll be a home run here or there, but to kind of limit the damage the way that he has done throughout most of his career, it should be pretty good. I think that's a good example of what Yamamoto did last night, that Yamamoto was really good, right? That last night felt like one of those games that had the Dodgers wanted to, they could have let him roll. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the 3,000 strikeouts. They just don't use pitchers like that anymore. But Yamamoto really gave the bullpen a nice little night off. He was cruising as well. I expect a lot of the same things from Clayton Kershaw in his game today. And we'll kind of get into this coming up in just a little bit. Some of the things that the Dodgers have been able to do against not just the White Sox, but some of the weaker sisters of the major leagues. They've had a nice little soft spot in their schedule, and they certainly have taken advantage of it. And I expect Clayton Kershaw to do more of the same tonight against the White Sox on Yamamoto bobblehead night as well. That's got to be a good night for Yamamoto, right? You come off a night where you pitched well. Again, he seems to have rediscovered his groove. You come off a night where the Dodgers gave him a nice cushion early. That's something that he had not had a lot of this season. We've talked about how he doesn't get much run support this year. And you win, you're feeling pretty good about it. And now you get to come back to the ballpark on a Wednesday, see your bobblehead, know that you were the previous day's winning pitcher, you contributed to it, and now you get to kind of relax and get ready for your next trip. And of course, what seems inevitable, his first trip to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in Atlanta coming up in just a couple of weeks as well. So a good night for Yamamoto, and what should be a historic night for Clayton Kershaw tonight at Dodger Stadium. Let's talk about what else happened last night. Michael Kopech to the IL, and that bullpen got a nice night off. That's all coming up straight ahead on Locked On Dodgers. Ever wish that managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money? It absolutely can. So whether you're growing your savings or planning that big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And just so you understand, Monarch Money, it's more than just a budgeting app. It is complete financial command center, right? You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. And if you are in a relationship, if you got a partner and you are sharing your finances with someone, right? Monarch Money can help both of you stay on the same page. So you both understand what's going on and where the spending is going. And that's one of the things that's absolutely crazy, right? Monarch Money is going to kind of point out where a lot of this money is going. Like all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm spending that much on takeout. I'm spending that much on subscriptions that I'm not really even using. So that is a big deal as well with Monarch Money. And of course, they can help you get ready for that one big thing you've been thinking about. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a house, a down payment, something like that. Monarch Money can help you with all of these things. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. Moving forward here on Locked On Dodgers, thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Check out the Locked On Rams, though, too. Don't forget that one. Locked On Lakers, of course, with my pals, Andy and Brian Kamenetsky over there. Locked On's got you covered. Just your favorite team. We got it. Make sure that you go check that out as well. So Dodgers opened the series yesterday against the White Sox. They get a comfortable 6-1 victory. They improved to 54-32. They have the best record in baseball. And but let's talk about what's taken place over the last week and a half or so. Dodgers went through, let's go back before that, actually, to start the conversation. For about a month, Dodgers played really good teams. And for about the first 2/3 of that month, they kind of kept their head above water, but it's about a 500 run through a stretch of games. Go back, it was the Yankees, it was the Guardians, it was the Mets a couple of times, like some good teams. And they did fine, but they didn't really, start to stack any money or anything or put anybody away. And then you got into that stretch against the Padres and the Giants, and they really kind of found their groove. And now they go to the next stretch in their schedule, which instead of playing playoff teams, instead of playing teams that you might run into, in the postseason or the World Series, you're playing teams that are bad. Right. But there's really no two ways about it. You're playing the Colorado Rockies. You're playing the Nats. You're playing the White Sox. You're playing the Royals. Might not be bad, but they're not, they're certainly not in that other category as well. And they've just been putting it on people. Right. You go through what they did against Washington, 2 out of 3. They go to Colorado. They do what you're supposed to do against Colorado. They sweep that series. They go to Kansas City. They win 2 out of 3. They come back last night. They win the opener against the White Sox, another bad team. This is, I was talking, emailing with the host of Locked On White Sox the other day, and I mentioned it to him, and I thought it was, I think it's a good point with the Dodgers is, one of the things that they do really well, and it's hard to do in baseball, they beat teams they're supposed to beat, right? That talent is not always the only thing that matters in a baseball game. In basketball, if I have way better players than you, I'm going to beat you almost every time. In football, if I've got a lot better players, I'm going to beat you most. In baseball, you could have severely inferior talent and win 40% of the time, 35% of the time. There's no other sport where that happens. The Dodgers really don't do that against bad teams. They kind of flick those bad teams aside. And this is why they've been able to do what they've been able to do over the last few months, is open up this big lead in the NL West that, for the first 2 months of the season, it's like, look, they're within spitting distance. Hey, the Giants are kind of hanging around. Not so much anymore. Right? You look around, the San Francisco Giants are 9 games out of first place. They were right on the Dodgers' heels just a second ago, 9 back. We're nearly double digits, and we're not to the All-Star break yet. Pretty much the same thing with the San Diego Padres. Dodgers beat them pretty soundly in the 2 matchups that they had. The Padres are now 8 games out. What felt like, hey, I don't know, man, was all of a sudden all right, this is just about money in the bank at this point. And that's a big feather in the Dodgers cap, I believe, to be able to go in there and beat bad teams very consistently, I think, is the trade, not only of having better players, not only of being a professional organization that doesn't take your foot off the gas, but I'll give Dave Roberts and I'll give the players a ton of credit for this as well, that they go in there and they don't take anything for granted, that they just relentlessly grind people down. I think that's part of what happened to San Diego and San Francisco, is that they got in that Dodger grinder and they came out of it the back end worse for wear. You know, the Dodgers went into those series and came out of it feeling really good and have taken off since then. Those teams came out of those situations against the Dodgers, those series against the Dodgers, and have been not nearly as good afterwards. That it takes a toll on the Dodgers, just grind people up, and they continued to do it yesterday as well. Good one for Yamamoto yesterday. I mentioned they did not use their two main, I shouldn't say they're two main guys, but a couple of their main guys from the bullpen. No Vezia, no Tanner Scott last night. So, you know, it's been Friday since they picked. So some guys that have been really heavily leaned on all season long, and Scott and Vezia have gotten a nice long break here. You got another nice long break right around the corner in the All-Star break coming up. So what was something, I think if you had to list areas of concern for the Dodgers, that was probably number 2 on the list, and it was directly connected to number 1. Number 1 being we don't have enough starting pitchers to go around, and the guys aren't going nearly deep enough into games, which led to problem number 2, which is you are using your bullpen more than any other team in baseball. That is starting to calm down, in particular Vezia and Scott getting a couple of days off and getting to freshen up, I think is very good news for them. Now, I think you're going to start to see this slide back the other way. You're getting more and more starting pitching options. I've mentioned that over the last couple of days. The everydayers will be familiar with that Ohtani is getting closer to being a regular starting pitcher, that Robleski has eaten a ton of innings, that Emmett Sheehan looks like he's going to be able to step in there, that Clayton Kershaw, who we'll see again tonight, has been able to go deep into games, that Yamamoto and May have taken their turn every single time this season. You're starting to see at least the rough outline of a regular starting rotation that are not just the same guys over and over again, but they're pitching into the 5th and 6th inning on a semi-regular basis, or maybe even more than a semi-regular basis, and allowing that bullpen to not have to cover 5-6 innings every single night. That's a big deal. So I think you're going to continue to see more of that. And then simultaneously, you see Michael Kopech go down. He's an interesting one. He was really good for the Dodgers last year, was instrumental to them, closing the show and winning the World Series, a very, very valuable member of that team last year. Was unavailable early, came back for a relatively short period of time and pitched okay, kind of hit and miss, was in the minor leagues on an extended rehab, finally gets up to the bigs again, and then is right back down on the IL again. So, how much can you lean on him, in the future? And I don't know. Time will tell, right? We'll see what it looks like. But, add him to the list of Trinan and Gratterall and some of these other guys that have been up and down. Hopefully it's more of a maintenance thing. Hopefully it's just one of those, hey, let's be extra cautious here. They are starting to open up some ground in the NL West, so maybe they can afford to get guys off their feet a little bit. Still wouldn't be surprised if you saw that with Yamamoto at some point this season, or Dustin May. I think that's probably coming at some point or another. But Michael Kopech down on the IL for at least the next week or so. Dodgers and White Sox. Clayton Kershaw looking for number 3,000. We will be all over that tomorrow on Locked On Dodgers. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get your local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And, of course, the Dodger Postcasts, which follow each and every game. Pete Fox has got you covered on all of that as well. Kershaw 3,000 all over it tomorrow. Until then, thanks for checking out Locked On Dodgers, and go blue.